Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn webinar, What's New in Dynamics NAV 2017, brought to you by Archer Point. Microsoft's latest release, Dynamics NAV 2017, caused quite a stir in the NAV community when it was first released last fall. With vague statements like bringing worlds together and enhancing core application, it can be difficult to decipher what is really new with the software. And perhaps more importantly, how would these new features impact your day-to-day NAV use? We are here today to show you what's new in this latest release. Our presenter today is Bruce Kennedy. Bruce is a solution consultant with Archer Point. His functional areas of expertise are finance, manufacturing, and distribution. Prior to coming to Archer Point, he's been a technical consultant with Microsoft and a controller for a multinational manufacturing company. He has more than 25 years of extensive experience in functional finance, manufacturing, and distribution, including many years of pre-sales experience and consulting work on dozens of major ERP implementations. In today's webinar, Bruce will demonstrate some of the new features of Dynamics NAV 2017. He'll walk us through functionality such as making a PayPal payment, creating financial reports, understanding smart notifications, and much more. So let's get started. Bruce, over to you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Well, I thought I would start off today by starting with the web client and looking at some of the integrations that Microsoft has with other products such as SharePoint and Office 365. So I've logged in as a customer service representative in the web client. If I come over to here to the Office 365, I can click on this link and this will open up the SharePoint site. And I'll come to the top. And now I see the information and I have available to me from a financial management position, order processing, or service management. And we'll also be able to look at some of the integration with Power BI. But first, let's take a look at Office 365. And we'll go to Outlook. So now I'm in Outlook, and during my night hours from Archer Point, I also work as moonlighting with the Canon Group, and consequently I'm linked as a contact in the Canon Group. So I have sent an email to excuse me, to this company for a quote. I'll open up the Outlook email and maximize that. So here is the email asking for a quote. And if I click on the Dynamics NAV feature that's on the Outlook email, since I am a contact with the Canon Group, it opens up the Canon Group information. Here I'm able to see details such as the Canon Group's balance, what's past due, a graph on my accounts receivable, workflow tiles indicating existing sales orders, quotes, posted returns and shipments. The customer statistics information is also on here. And as I scroll over to the right, you can see that there are other pieces of information giving the user of Outlook complete visibility to the customer information. Now, since the request was for a quote, I simply come up to here, click on New, and now I've got the ability to enter a sales quote or an invoice, an order, a credit memo, or a reminder, all while still working within the Outlook client. Now, I also mentioned the ability to exit out of here, the ability to use Power BI with the NAV 2017. So again, I'll come over to my apps. In this case, I'll come down to Power BI. I'll sign in since I already have an account. And now I'm looking at a dashboard of information related to the NAV application. If we come over here to the left side and expand this area, we'll see that we have three major groupings within Power BI. Data sets, and in this case we have only one, Microsoft Dynamics NAV, but any database could be used for creating data sets. Within those data sets, you are able to generate reports, and then from the reports, you can create dashboards. Well, let's go ahead and create, using the NAV data set, new reports and dashboards. So now I'm looking at a clean canvas, and we want to create some reports. So over here on the right side, I have the different areas, the fields that I can choose for the different types of reports that I want to create. And to the left of that, visualizations. How do I want to view the information? Well, let's come over to here and we'll do some reports based on our top customer overview. So the first group that we want to create is, let's look at our sales by salesperson. So I'll simply come down here and I'll click on salesperson code, and I'll click on the sales in local currency. So now I'm looking at this information in a tabular format. But again, I have visualizations that I can make changes on that, such as a pie chart. So now I'm looking at information related to our sales representative JR and PS. And if I hover over them, I'll see more detailed information about each one of those sections of the pie chart. I can also move this anywhere I so desire and expand this in any way. Let's create another one. I simply click out of that particular group, and we'll use the same customer overview, and this time we'll create a sales and profit. So I click on sales and profit, and I'd like to see this by the different customers. So now I've got my different customers and the sales and profit, and I'll move that to here. Now, one of the nice features about Power BI is that I can click on a section of the graph, such as JR, and now I'm highlighting only JR's sales and profitability on his sales by different customers. And the same thing with PS, shadowing JR's and only highlighting PS. Let's do one more graph, and this time we'll create this as a map for our different salespeople. So I'm going to create this for our salesperson code, and I'll create the sales and profit, and this time I'll use the country region, and we'll change that to a map. And I'll expand this out, and since I'm still hovering only on PS, I click on both, and now I'm looking at a map of the world, and again, looking only at JR, our European sales, and PS, our United States sales. Let's put this on the Role Center itself so that we always have visibility to this information. So I'll come up here to File, and I'll save this. And I'll save this as our sales and profit report. And we'll save that. Now I'll come back to NAV. I'll look at all apps. NAV. And let's scroll down to where we have Power BI. There are no reports enabled yet. Let's click here, and we'll select a report. I'll go to the Home tab and I'll edit the list. Here's our sales and profit. I'll enable that and say OK. Now it's refreshing. And here are the different graphs, reports, dashboards as we have just created using Power BI. Let's take a look now at the Windows client and look at some of the other features that are available in Dynamics NAV 2017. Come down here and I'll expand this. Now looking at a Windows client, let's look and talk about some of the new features that are available. One of them that I think has been very popularly received is attributes. Attributes allow you to be able to signify for your items different conditions that they may exist. It's a little different than the variants, giving you more information about the inventory items. I've got a subset of items called paint. So these are the different paints that I have in my list of inventoriable items. I can use this filter in order to be able to help me find different items that meet those attribute conditions. So let's click here, and now I'm able to indicate what attribute do I consider when I'm looking for paint in this example. Now, I'll stop for just a second and say these are all user-defined attribute codes. And if I click on the advanced, you'll see that as you create them, you have the option of one of these four types. Either an option, such as my different colors, a depth, for example, which is a decimal field, or an integer, such as the model year, or it could be a text field. So in this case, I'm looking for paint that is red, and I'd like to find it in a quart size. So I'll come back over to here to attributes. I'll say the color, and as we saw, my different choices, I'll use red. And then for the size, I'll say quart. Say OK. Say OK again. And now I've had the limitation of what attributes are available that meet that condition. And there's also a fact box, item attributes, that allow you to see all the attributes associated with the highlighted item. One of the other nice features, I'll go ahead and break this filter. One of the other nice features, I'll open up the item card, is the ability to have the hierarchy of your inventory. Before, the item category code used to be the area where you would hide the default, or store, I should say, the default posting groups, as well as the costing method, standard, FIFO, the other choices that are available. What 17 has done now is allow you to be able to create a hierarchy with the item category group. I'm going to click on the advanced, and this is now showing, as I expand, the different codes that you determine, user-defined codes, and then the different codes that fit underneath that. And this can go on, I believe, indefinitely as far as the number of hierarchies that you want to have for your inventory, giving you far more flexibility in the ability to create reports for the hierarchical structure that you have on your items. Let's go to another area now. I'm going to jump over to my accounting manager, and I want to talk a little bit about the optical character recognition. Now, that first came out in 2016, but Microsoft has enhanced that capability to now allow multiple lines on the purchase invoice. In 16, you were only able to have the total value of the purchase invoice associated, but now you can have detailed lines. I have already sent and received back from Lexmark, the service provider for that, a particular invoice. Let's go ahead and open up what we received back. This is the PDF invoice that I had. Let's open it up for a second and take a look at it. Now, the items that are on Polychemtech's invoice are their codes. So consequently, there is a cross-reference between their code and our item. So that when we pull this invoice in and create a purchase invoice from it, the cross-reference will show the items that we are using. I'll exit from here. As I said, I've already received from the OCR service the invoice itself, so now it's strictly a create document, and that's a manual basis. There is also now a new workflow template from Microsoft that allows the automatic creation of the invoice, such as a purchase invoice, in the NAV application. I'll go ahead and create that. I now see that purchase 6 has been created. I'll say OK. And now let's go to purchase invoices. Here is purchase invoice 6. And as you see, the items are in the codes that we're using based on the cross-references that were established with the invoice, as well as all the different lines that are there, as opposed to, again, last year, which you only had the total amount for the invoice itself. Let's now go to another area. I'm going to go to a business manager and talk about some of the nice features that Microsoft has created for helping you in setting up NAV, as well as some of the new reporting features that are available. For example, if I go to assisted setup and tasks, let me open that up. Assisted setup and tasks. This is now giving me a list of areas that can be established, such as setting up a new workflow for customer approval. So if we click this, we now have a wizard that can direct us in establishing this particular setup. So let's go ahead and choose next. And this is now asking who is going to be the one that is going to approve this. So I simply look down here and I find Greg Kopp as the approver. And then the workflow starts when? Is this going to be a workflow that starts when there is a manual request or when the user changes a specific field? So I'll say that this will be a manual request, indicating on the ribbon that a new customer has been created. And now I simply say finish. So now if we create a new customer, we will send a new request for the approval. Now, one of the first things you'll notice if I click new is I'm presented immediately with all of the different master templates that are for the customer. So I'll simply say OK. Create that. As we enter in the information about our customer, and we've already used the master template, then it's simply a matter of sending the approval request, since we had initiated this to be on a manual basis. Now, that request can be in multiple forms. One would be an email that would be sent to the supervisor or the approver, and that email would have a hyperlink that would be for this new customer, and then the approver can either approve, disapprove, and add comments associated with the approval or disapproval. Another way that the approver can get the information about the new customer is using My Notifications. So that information can be there when they're in the NAV application. My Notifications will automatically appear. They simply double click on that, and it'll open up the new customer. And again, they'll have the ability to make an approval or not approve that particular request. Let's exit from this new customer. Let's go back to our Role Center, and let's talk about some of the new financial statements that are available to us now. What NAV has allowed is the ability to create your, I'll use the term traditional financial statements, balance sheet, P&L or income statement, cash flows, retained earnings. These are reports that are automatically created based on the chart of accounts themselves. There really is no report setup. It's not the same as the account schedules. Those still exist, as they always have, where you can create your own reports in any fashion you want. These are the traditional reports, such as statement of cash flows. Simply click here, indicate what type of information you want, a starting date perhaps, the ending date, which is my work date, February 5th, 2018. Do I want to include a GL budget? And then do I want to use my dimensions as different filters for this report? I'll say no and simply do a preview. And now I have the cash flow statement giving me by line item the different amounts that are coming from the trial balance. Now, what's the method that NAV is using in order to be able to create these reports? Let's go take a look at some of the new features that are in the chart of accounts. I'll come down here to Finance. I'll go to Chart of Accounts, and I'll open up this account called Lodging in my chart of accounts, 61340. In addition to the traditional, is this account an income statement or a balance sheet account, there are two new fields, account category and account subcategory. The account categories are your traditional views of a trial balance, assets, liabilities, equities, income, and expenses. But then there's also the account subcategory. So underneath expenses, for example, you have all of these user-defined codes that you can establish. And then what are the GL account or accounts that are within this particular line item? And then the system also reports that balance based on your trial balance information. This is the way that those reports that we saw are able to be created without having to generate them through the account schedules. Okay, let's look at a couple of other features that we have. I'll exit from here and I'll come back to my customer service, go back to our Role Center. One of the nice features is that Microsoft has done some modifications to the CRM or Customer Relationship Management that's within the NAV application. And by that, I'm referring to the ability to add things such as interactions that we have with a customer, opportunities, those types of informational pieces that required a wizard in the past. No longer is that wizard used. It's a very streamlined method in order to be able to create that. So if I go to customers, for example, and under customers, I choose contacts. Here I see the different contacts that we have, such as David Hodgson. If I want to create an interaction prior to 2017, again, I would click this and I would go through multiple wizard steps in order to enter in the information. Now I simply click here and I enter in my interaction template code. We'll say that this was an outgoing call that we made to David and salesperson, and now you see the information that used to be presented, such as was there correspondence type, what was the day of that, who was initiating this particular call, is there a cost associated, does it relate to a campaign or perhaps an opportunity, and then you also have the ability to enter your comments. Say okay, and then okay to that. I don't want to create an opportunity at this particular point in time. But now as we navigate and we go look at our interaction log entries, we see that information that we've just recorded associated with that. So again, it's a much cleaner way to be able to enter in the information and makes it much easier and faster to record that type of data. Another area is smart notifications. This is a new feature that you have the option of being able to establish or turn off at your discretion. Let's go ahead and look at this using the search bar under My Notifications. So here there's about 7 different ones. Let's move this to the center. I have them all unenabled. Create a sales order and I do not have enough stock available, I'll get a notification indicating that fact. And then I've also got an area where I can drill down and get more detailed information. Same thing holds true with customer exceeds the credit limit. Or if I have an unposted document and I'm trying to exit out, the system will ask, are you sure you want to leave? Posting outside of the fiscal year, double checking the fact that you didn't fat type the wrong date or something such as that. Similar to exceeding credit limit is an overdue balance if the customer is in that particular position. Or confirm after posting documents. If you want, the system will ask if you, for example, have posted a sales invoice, do you want to go view the posted sales invoice? And then similar to item availability is low, items are running low in inventory. I'll enable the item availability is low, and then we'll generate a sales order to show you that information. I'll use the hyperlink for a new sales order. I'll come to here and I'll enter in my customer number. And then we'll say a sales item. We'll use our bicycle. I'll say it's in the silver location and we want a dozen of them. I immediately get that smart notification telling me that the inventory for this item is lower than the entered quantity with the hyperlink for details. I simply click on that and here I get information box pertaining to what is available, what our shortage is currently, and then other information related to the item. Again, the ability to be able to have that enabled or not is up to you. Also, what I didn't get a chance to show you there was the ability to generate a purchase invoice or a purchase order directly from that information box so that you could create that immediately for this particular item. Let's exit from here. I'm going to make a jump back to our web client. I'm going to exit from here. I'll sign out as the administrator. I want to talk a little bit about jobs. That is also new within the application in the way that it's been structured and the integration that you have with Outlook. So I'm going to log in as Megan, who is our project manager. I'll sign in. So this is Megan's desktop, and I'll come over to Jobs, and I'll look at this installation job that is ongoing. And one of the first things you'll notice is the structure itself. There was the card, and then behind the card for jobs was the tasks, and then the third level of that were the planning lines. What Microsoft has now done is to streamline that. We now have on the card itself the line items for the tasks. So here we have setting up the different work areas, the different information that was on the task itself, and then our totals that we have for the different sub-jobs as well as the grand total. Now, one of the nice things as well is the terminology has also been changed. If I now go to my planning lines, we'll see now that the terms are budget and billable. So Microsoft has changed the term schedule and contract to something a little bit more in tune with the North American marketplace for budget and billable. But also note here that Megan has been associated as a resource for several of the line items required in this particular job. The integration now that is with the Outlook allows the user to send to Megan, in this example, calendar, all of the line items that she has been associated with. That is simply clicked, it's automatically sent over to Megan's calendar. So let's go take a look at my apps. I'll open up Megan's mail. Well, that's not Megan's mail, so let me sign out of here and get back into Megan's mail. Okay, so now Megan has received from the administrator the different requests for the meeting invites based on the job. So this was one of the tasks associated with that. And if we open this up and view, we'll see the time allotted, where, what job that was, what task associated with that. So Megan would then add that to her calendar. And let's go take a look at Megan's calendar. That work week demo date is in the year 2019. So let's open it up there. And here we see that she has accepted some of these activities already on there. And as an added feature, she has the ability of using this calendar placement in order to enter the actual hours that she has worked and associate that with the job journal, which would then be approved and posted to update the job itself. Suzanne, those were the main areas that I wanted to show. There are other areas that we have within the 2017, such as extensions, which are the abilities now to create modifications to the NAV application without touching the source code, more of a development tool, if you will. There's also Cortana, who is using artificial intelligence to be able to help in a variety of ways, such as creating cash forecasts, as well as anticipating inventory levels and sales projections for inventoriable items. Cortina needs, I believe it's about 5 months of data in order to be able to start to make projections. Of course, the more data that Cortana has, the more correct she will be towards her projections of positions of inventory as well as sales. There's quite a few other areas that are within the 2017, but because it's so new and I assume there's going to be so many questions, I wanted to open up the questioning now so that we make sure that we got all of those answered.
Great, thanks, Bruce. Definitely some interesting and exciting new features. I do have a question again. If you're in the audience and you have any questions you'd like to ask, you can just post them in the questions pane of your GoToWebinar console or use the raise your hand feature. First question we have is going back to item attributes. Christina notes that she heard that if more than 2,100 items are assigned the same attribute, then the filter by attribute doesn't work. Is that true? Or do you know?
I have not heard that before. I'm not saying it's not true. I had not heard that. We can certainly do some investigation and inquire into that. And that may have been an issue that Microsoft has resolved. They just recently came out with cumulative update number 5, which may have resolved that. But we'll have to do some investigation to verify that.
Yeah, agreed. All right, any other questions from the audience? Next question is, can you explain a bit more on the extensions and how that works?
I wish I could. That is probably something that is more geared towards a developer than myself. I know that it does allow modifications to be made to the NAV application which do not interfere with the actual code itself. It's not modifying the code. It's simply a call out to what that modification would be. What that also allows is the ability to have multi-tenant applications that are using standard NAV, but their apps, which would be extensions, are able to be used for their specific requirements in a multi-tenant environment. It also will enhance the ability for upgrades, since there's not going to be the merge requirement that is currently used when you update the source code itself. Other than that, that's about the extent of my knowledge on extensions.
Yeah, and there's a ton of information out there on the internet, and I think we might actually have a blog on it, so I'll be happy to follow up with you on that after this session personally. Next couple of questions we have come from Giovanni. He asked, how is the performance with NAV 2017 compared to other versions? And I know I know that I've heard, because we've upgraded recently ourselves, and I heard it's really fast.
Yes, it's quite quick. I've been very impressed with the way that the NAV application responds to the click of the mouse or the moving of the keyboard, much faster than in previous versions.
Next question was around Windows client versus web client. And I'm not sure exactly which issue you're referring to, but do they still have an issue with programming something in Windows client? Will it be treated differently in the web client? I don't know if you can expand
I'm not
on
quite
that.
sure if I understand that
Yeah.
question either.
All right, Giovanni, maybe we'll just have a conversation after the fact to make sure we get your questions answered with one of our developers. All right, any other questions from the audience today? All right, I think that's about it. Got a quiet crowd today. I do want to go ahead and thank everybody for your time today. We know you have a busy schedules, and we appreciate you setting aside some of that time to spend with us. We hope you consider it time well spent. To help us to continue to offer value, please take just another minute more or two to give us your feedback or let us know what other topics you would like covered in future webinars. Simply send your comments to info@archerpoint.com. Again, that's info@archerpoint.com. Again, thank you for your time. Bruce, thank you for your time as well. And this concludes today's session. Have a great rest of your day.